This video is sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. Edge of Eternities is out, bringing with it 2 new card types, 2 new mechanics, 1 new ability word, and 2 new tokens. So here's your complete rules breakdown covering the best cards, the best strategies, and advanced rules you need to know. Let's start with the headliner mechanic, Station. You can find this mechanic on the 2 new card types, Spacecrafts and Planets. Spacecraft is a new artifact subtype, and Planet is the new non-basic land subtype. Station is a combination of crew and enlist. As a sorcery, you can tap a creature you control and then add an amount of charge counters to the permanent you are stationing equal to the creature's power. Once the planet or spacecraft has at least the amount of counters as noted by the numbers on the left hand side of the card, the planet or spacecraft will unlock those abilities. Now there are 2 new decks that you need to be on the lookout for using this new mechanic. The first is the Kona Rescue Beastie combo. This deck looks to land the new card, the Surima, a 3-cost spacecraft that when it enters, you can search your library for a legendary creature and put it into your hand. You then follow that up with a Kona, which you can also search for with the Surima. Then you can use Kona to station the spacecraft. This then triggers Kona's ability, allowing you to cheat in an Omniscience or Golter to then play out the rest of your hand. Next is the Jeskai Artifacts deck that looks to summon giant constructs with Simulacrum Synthesizer. With these tokens, you can then fully station new card Euthros Titanic Godcore, which then becomes the universally banned Talarian Academy, which can then allow you to cast even more spells to generate even more constructs, and then cheat in a fire crystal to give them all haste and swing in for lethal. One last thing, with the release of this set, any legendary vehicle or legendary spacecraft with a printed power and toughness can now be your commander. So this opens up a whole heap of deck building ideas. And you can pick up one of these new legendary spacecrafts in one of the 2 new Edge of Eternities commander decks. Or perhaps you might be lucky enough to open one in a collector booster. Click the link in the description for more information. Next, let's check out another powerful new mechanic that is already shaking up the metagame across multiple formats: Warp. Personally, I would say Warp is an even more powerful variant of Evoke. Warp allows you to cast a permanent spell for a discounted cost, and at the end of the turn, that permanent gets exiled and you may cast it again for its normal mana cost on a later turn. There are 2 big things to note about warped permanents. Firstly, warped creatures, while in most cases they may not be able to attack unless they have haste, they can immediately station a spacecraft or planet. Secondly, and this is the big one, after you warp a card, for example Quantum Riddler, if at some point during the turn you cast Splash Portal on it, the creature will go to exile and then come back, do its ETB trigger, and becomes a new game object. This is thanks to Rule 400.7. An object that moves from one zone to another becomes a new object with no memory of or relation to its previous existence. This means that the creature will not exile itself at the end of turn. We're also seeing Warp show up in the new standard Sephiroth deck. Timeline Color is fast becoming a cornerstone card of the deck, alongside the other new Edge of Eternities card, Umbral Collar Zealot. With these 2 cards in play, and a couple of Vengeful Blood Witches, you can drain your opponent for as much life as you have black mana available. Just simply sacrifice the color to the Zealot, the Blood Witches or Sephiroth will trigger, dealing damage to your opponent and gaining you life, and then you can warp the timeline color from your graveyard and repeat the loop. And even if the board gets wiped, you can bring everything back with a single cast of Raise the Past. In this same Sephiroth Sacrifice deck, we also get to see the new ability word in action, Void. Void simply checks to see if a non-land permanent has left the battlefield or if a spell was warped this turn, and if something has, it gets a bonus effect, as seen on Tragic Trajectory, a clear callback to Tragic Slip, a 1 mana sorcery that gives a creature -2/2, but if Void has been engaged, the creature gets -10/10. Having something leave the battlefield is easy enough in the Sephiroth deck. One big thing to note with Void is that it only activates off of non-land permanents, so cracking fetch lands won't turn this ability online. Now it's worth talking about the 2 new tokens that dropped with this set as well, as both are making a splash in Standard. First we have Lander tokens, an artifact where you can pay 2, tap and sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land and put it into play tapped. In Standard you'll see these tokens most commonly being generated from the 1 mana sorcery, Sammy's Curiosity, as this is a nice setup piece for the mono-green landfall deck that has been rising in popularity. There's also Biotech Specialist, a 2 mana 1/3 that creates a lander when it enters, but it also has the ability, whenever you sacrifice an artifact, this creature deals 2 damage to target opponent. So this not only triggers with lander tokens being sacrificed, it also goes great with the next new token, Munitions. You can generate munition tokens through the new card, Weapons Manufacturing, a 2 mana red enchantment that says, whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions with, when this token leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. So when combined with Biotech Specialist, that's 4 damage each time a munition leaves the battlefield. So you can combine these cards with either Umbral Collar Zealot, or Embrace Oblivion, or even Rotten Mouth Viper for maximum value. It's worth reminding you that these tokens say, when this token leaves the battlefield. So if your opponent tries to remove all of the tokens with something like Pinnacle Starcage, the tokens will still trigger even if they get exiled. Now if you want to check out any of the decks I've mentioned in this video, I'll link them in the description down below. As for my favourite cards of the set, Sunset Saboteur is already putting in work in my standard mono-black mid-range deck, alongside Archenemy's Charm, and Ice Till Explorer is definitely going in my Necrobloom Commander deck. Let me know what cards you're looking forward to, and as always, be sure to like the video if you learned something. Thanks again to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video. Edge of Eternities is available everywhere now. And make sure you head to your LGS to experience Magic's Space Fantasy set. And subscribe, because if you don't, I'll take you to the next eternity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.